Never a dull day in the reptile house. So this is our salmon pink tarantula who has got one of her fangs stuck in a vine. So she was going for a locust, missed the locust and bit right into the vine. So let's see if I can try and loosen that fang. I'll just try it with some tweezers first. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. Yeah. So you have to just be really careful of them because they are very fragile fangs. There we are. All done. And she's heading off all embarrassed like. So this is our largest tarantula. While we're here, I might as well tell you a little bit about her. So I said she's a salmon pink tarantula. She does feed on locusts, and she's actually probably our friendliest tarantula we've got here. While I'm down here anyway, because of the tarantula incident, I thought I'd talk to you about a couple of the other animals down here. So these are our tokay geckos. So this guy is actually shedding its skin. Most geckos eat their skin as they're shedding, so it usually comes off in sort of one or a few big lumps like it is here. So you can see the white bit at the end of its body there, so between its body and its tail, that's the skin hanging off. Looks like I've interrupted him a little bit, but I just wanted to talk to you about their feet. So tokay geckos are one of my favourite reptiles, one of the first reptiles that I kept myself, so that's where a lot of my love for reptiles came from, is geckos in general, and especially these guys, partly because they're big, they're absolutely gorgeous, they're aggressive, they're active, and they've got really special feet, so they can actually climb on glass, on the ceiling, no matter what, any smooth surface they'll hang on to. So a lot of people think that's because they've got sticky feet, but they don't have sticky feet at all. They've actually got loads and loads of tiny little microscopic hairs on their toes called setae, and those tiny hairs actually grip onto the tiniest little imperfections on the glass, on the wood, whatever they're hanging onto. So not sticky feet, hairy feet. So I'm going to let him keep going with his shedding, because I think I'm putting him off. So let's talk a little about these guys. So if you've been watching my live streams, there's a couple of times where people have asked what my favourite animals in the park are. So these guys have come up a few times. So these are graze monitors. To me, these are really special animals. So we've got a pair here. So this is our male. And then next to another enclosure, we've got our female. So she's up there. So they do live apart for most of the year. And then we do a few different things, such as increasing humidity, changing the temperature over the year, changing their diet slightly, to try and bring them into sort of a breeding response. And then once we've done all of those different things, we will move one of them and take them into the other enclosure. So what we've done a few times, we've tried it in both ways. So far we've not had any fertile eggs. Last year we actually did have a few eggs from the female, but they were not fertile. And we are hoping that, so obviously because that was our first clutch, quite often with reptiles their first clutches do end up not being fertile. But we're hoping that this year we might be able to get some fertile eggs from them. So they're not bred very often in captivity, certainly not outside the Philippines. So the Philippines is where they're from in the wild. They are classed as vulnerable, so they're actually the same classification as Komodo dragons. But whereas we know sort of a good estimate of numbers of Komodo dragons in the wild, we actually have no idea really how many of these guys are left in the wild. So we do know that their population is decreasing. And also we know that their habitat is becoming really fragmented because of deforestation, and also they are sometimes hunted for bushmeat, not so much for their skin, but they are also really shy species, so they're hard to research in the wild. There's a little bit of research being done by a few people, but they are really shy, and they've got a really specialized diet as well. They're very unusual for monitor lizards. So generally speaking, monitor lizards, so most ones that you'll see in sort of pet shops, so things like the bosque monitor, the water monitor, crocodile monitor, and then the zoo ones, so things like the sort of emerald tree monitors and Komodo dragons. They're all insectivores or carnivores. So these guys here, they start off as carnivores, insectivores as well, but as they grow, they actually change their diet, and it's been shown that the composition of their teeth actually changes as they mature, and they physiologically change to swap over to a fruit diet. So in the wild, the fruits which they eat, they're very much sort of palm nuts and things like that, which is very difficult for us to get here. So we actually still have them on a diet which is predominantly sort of eggs and insects. They have a little bit in the way of mice as well, but we do have a fair bit of fruit as well. The problem which we have is that our supermarket fruits are a lot sweeter, have a much higher sugar content than the wild fruits, just because a lot of wild fruits are actually closer in terms of flavors and sugar contents and things to vegetables. So because we can't get their fruit, we do have to sort of make a compromise between the two. They seem to be doing really well, so they're a nice size, they've grown well, and as I said, last year we did have some eggs as well, so we're hoping that this year we have a bit more luck, and that what we're doing with them diet wise and things is going to be shown to be the right way to keep them over here. But yeah, people ask me about what my favourite animals are. These guys are right up there. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, really interesting. They don't do an awful lot, but no, there's just everything about them is just so unusual. I'm really big fan of these. So at the park we've got a couple of venomous reptile species left. So we used to have quite a nice collection of venomous snakes, but those haven't been at the park for quite a few years now. So we made a decision quite a few years ago to not use venomous snakes, so we moved on our rattlesnakes, our cobras, vipers, all those things got moved on, mainly for sort of health and safety reasons, and it does become quite difficult, especially when you have new staff, to train them up with those sorts of snakes, and especially because the sort of education and conservation benefits of those species often they don't outweigh the health and safety risks that come with them. So we decided not to keep those anymore. There are still a few zoos in the country that have really nice collections that do really well with them as well. But we do still have the venomous lizards. So these are our beaded lizards, and then the ones you saw a minute ago are our Gila monsters. So even though they are venomous, their venom delivery system is slightly different to venomous snakes. They don't so much inject their venom, but they chew it into you. So they have got venom glands, but they haven't got hypodermic teeth. So they do actually have to sort of they grind their teeth together and work it into their prey. So generally speaking, they're not considered to be deadly to humans. So there's no anti-venom for these or anything like that, which is why they're still in our collection. So the health and safety considerations are completely different with these guys. Obviously, as with anything that's sort of chemical, so same with like bee sting, people can potentially have a bad reaction to these and go into anaphylactic shock. But there are very few cases of that having been recorded. So these guys are absolutely gorgeous. And you can see it a little bit better because they're a bit closer. So they are related to the beaded lizards, but you can see why they're called beaded lizards. So actually, like I said, these ones are the Gila monsters. But on the skin, you can see that their skin's covered in tiny little beads, well, bead-like structures, and that's where the other guys getting their name from. So this girl here is one of our plumed basilisks. They go after by all sorts of names, a green basilisk, and I think their most apt name is the Jesus lizard. So when I was in Costa Rica, I had a chance to see these in the wild. Well, actually, that's not quite true. I saw one of the related species. So it was the brown basilisk, which is a little bit smaller, and sort of brown with white and black markings. But also they go by the same name. And the reason why they have that name is on their back feet. You can just see that at the bottom they've got slightly larger scales that sort of flare out a little bit. And what those do is they actually catch water and spread out, so they can actually run on water. So that's why they have the name Jesus lizard. If I've got pictures of those in the wild, I should have. If I do, they'll be flashing up on the screen now. If you're still just looking at this guy, well, this girl, then that means I haven't got any pictures. But no, I think they're really interesting. So this is one of our oldest lizards in the reptile house. She's been here as long as I have. So she's a really gorgeous little animal. So just coming back to this guy. Graze monitors, like I said earlier, we do give them some insects in their diet. Just as I was going to go, Hannah, the senior keeper down here in the reptile house, fed them. So you can see them moving around a little bit. Most of the time when you see them, they'll probably be doing what I saw them doing earlier, which is sitting still. Nope. Come on, mate, you jumped back out of your mouth. So I don't know if you can see, so the locusts, they look quite light in colour, especially compared to the one that's floating around in the water. That's because we use several times a week a vitamin supplement, which is a powder which goes onto the insects and just gives the reptiles an extra little boost of vitamins and calcium. And then they need specialist lights, which are up there, which give them a sort of source of UV light. Oh, you've seen them move. So far in this video I've spoken mainly about lizards. I just realised that. So that is because largely I am a big fan of lizards, especially when I was first starting out with reptiles. It was mainly with lizards and a little bit with amphibians. I didn't deal that much with snakes, but what I'll do is I'll show you around some of our snakes as well. So this is the middle aisle of our reptile house, so this is sort of behind the scenes area. So I'll just show you these guys first. That's our old venomous animal snake bite kit. Now just our normal first aid kit. Right, so this is a carpet python. So this particular species is a Bredel's carpet python. And pythons are quite a nice species to show off sort of that part of their physiology there around their lips. So those are pits underneath there, which are heat receptors. So pit vipers also have them. That's actually where they get their name from. But with a lot of the pythons, you can see them really pronounced there as well. So these are quite aggressive guys. So that's why I'm standing back a little bit. And in this area we also keep our live food here. So for example here we have locusts. So this is one thing which at the moment we've still been able to get hold of quite easily. So these are locusts. because the sort of company that produces them, they produce them in the UK, so they're quite easy for us to get, which is handy because that's one of the things that if we were to run out of live food, that's one thing that we would really struggle to get in. So there's our mealworms that come in bags. And then just have a look. So these are our black crickets. So these are black field crickets. That's these guys here. So these ones we use mainly for feeding lizards that come from sort of deserty areas where they have beetles with a thick exoskeleton, because that's what they have as well. Whereas the brown crickets are more suited for lizards that feed on softer insects because they have quite a soft body. So that's those guys there. So the crickets that you can hear, those are the black ones. And the brown ones we get, these are called silent crickets because they don't have that chirp. And there's our mealworm. So a lot of you know these from our meerkats, so you can feed these. So these are the mealworms. So they're actually a larval form of the darkling beetle. So when they pupate from this, they turn into these. Just look like something from the Aliens film. But they then turn into a little black beetle. We haven't got any in this box, I don't think. No, there's none in here. Right, there I go again, being distracted by lizard stuff. So let's have a. I'm just going to get this lid back on properly. Right. So there's another snake here which I was going to show you. So this is a corn snake in here. So for most people that have seen sort of pet snakes and things, or have pet snakes, this is one of the most common ones that you would have seen. They come in all sorts of different colours now, but this one here is pretty much one of the sort of natural variations. So in the pet trade, these ones are called sort of Carolina corn snakes, just because that's the part of America where they come from. So they are a type of rat snake, and they get both names, the rat snake and the corn snake, because of sort of what they eat and where they live. So these are sort of farmers' best friend, because they do eat rats and mice. The reason why they're called corn snakes is that they're often found sort of around cornfields and corn storage and things, because obviously that's where a lot of the mice are hanging out. So, part of the reason why they're so popular as pet snakes, not only just because they do come in lots of different colours now, which have been selectively bred, but also because they are such friendly animals as well. So I don't do an awful lot of work with the reptiles anymore. I'm doing a lot more at the moment, just where sort of staffing levels are not as high as usual. And I still, at least once a week or so, feed the crocodiles. So I'm still keeping my toes sort of dipped in the pond, but I'm not doing anywhere near as much as what I used to. Another snake which we got in here, over there, is, so this is a king snake. Let's see if I can focus. So this is actually a speckled king snake. Interesting fact about king snakes is that, so you've got things like these, the king snakes, you've got king browns, king cobras. So pretty much all of the snakes that have the word king in their name, that shows that that is a snake which feeds on other snakes. So in captivity, these guys don't usually feed on other snakes, just because we have them on a nice diet of mice. But in the wild, they are known to cannibalize, that's where the name comes from. Also, king snakes are notoriously can be quite aggressive as well. Just coming over. So pretty much all of the king snakes we've ever had at the park have come through as rescue animals, where people have brought them in because they just cannot handle them anymore. They're easy to look after. They're very hardy animals, but they're sort of ideal for as a pet situation there. But they are just not friendly snakes, so they don't make good companion pets. They're more of an animal just to have at home and be admired rather than played with. And there's that Breddle's carpet python again. Really, really gorgeous snake. So I've actually been filming this over a couple of days while I've just been popping down here. I think this is the same guy who was shedding yesterday. But I just want to see if I can try and get a close-up of those feet for you that I spoke about yesterday. So the setae are on sort of strips on their toes. So the reason why they're in these sort of strips is that when they want to move, they sort of peel those off the glass rather than having the whole surface attached in one go. I'm guessing it just makes it a little bit easier to peel off rather than try and pull off the whole foot in one go. Won't focus anymore. But a nice opportunity to have a nice close-up look at these. So as I said, tokay geckos are gorgeous, gorgeous animals. And they've got beautiful eyes as well. Really, really nice eyes. So you can see, I think, why they're one of my favourites.